So with free writing, what the practice is you set a timer, or you can just fill up a page. Like, I'm not gonna stop until I fill up the page. And you write a lot and you write fast. So you don't pick up your pen, you don't scratch out, you don't erase, you just write. And I think that's a really, really good tool. It's like a brain dump. You get it all out. And so, and just do that with yourself. Even if like you have like that, those list of questions right there in front of you. Let me go back to them if I can. So if you have these questions here in front of you and you just write your responses fast, what do? I'm a writer. What's so special about how I write? I use Black English versus textbook English, and I really connect with my people. What are my accomplishments? Well, I got the degree. I was a best local author, da, 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 da. And you just write them fast and don't even give yourself, and put them all together, but you're not writing them like as a list, but more so as a paragraph. So that way, once you come back to clean it up, and which we'll talk about that here, then you can fix it. You go back and fix it. So once you're fixing, like I said, you want a one version that's long, another one that's short. You also want to fix it without trying to sound smart. So that's another really big one. Like sometimes I read bios and you can tell. I mean, I'm pretty sure all of y'all done read something before where you can tell somebody trying to sound smart. I mean, like if that 3-4 syllable word just came out of you naturally, that's one thing. But when you just put it there because you think it's going to make you sound a certain way, it comes off that way. You also, like I said, you want to keep it simple and you want to keep it concise. So, and that's really good in your editing process, not necessarily your writing process. So sometimes it's when we're flowing, we might, if you go back and notice it, or somebody else might help you notice it, you said the same thing maybe 3 or 4 different ways. Or maybe you just went on and on about something that we just really didn't need to know. Or maybe like even with your upbringing. And I'm going to share 3 different examples of bios in here too, so that we can kind of dissect those and look and take those apart. And then if editing ain't your thing, grammar ain't your thing, get it edited. Especially if you're out there sharing it with the world and it's going, that's your first impression. So you want to make sure it represents you well. And some options, of course, if you got friends who are good at it, family. But Fiverr is another good one. It's really cheap. And as long as it's like one page or so, you probably can get it edited for like $5, no more than $10. And tell it all elsewhere. So like I said, you want to keep it short in your bio, but then link them somewhere else to read the rest. So whether that's your website, a landing page there, your YouTube channel, or whatever else you're sending them, so they can go and find more information. Here's an example of during another bio writing workshop that I did. I was doing this one on the fly, and I said, I'm not doing that this time. So I had y'all send it ahead of time. But the first one, I made her one that could fit like on a flyer and one for an Instagram. So I wish I would have wrote down exactly, because I did it on the next one, what she told me. But it was like she was an herbalist who prioritizes helping women harmonize their hormones so they can have a happier relationship with their bodies. That's what I created. I don't remember what she had at first. And then I have a longer version there for her flyers. Pam is an herbalist who prioritizes helping women harmonize their hormones so they can have a healthy relationship with their bodies. She's a 3rd generation herbalist. She graduated from a Black Woman University in 2012. All the things are there. To learn more, go here. And then this one, I'm actually start off at the bottom, if I can see it, because all this stuff is in the way. But she told me I was born and raised in the South, and she's saying we'd be late to a function because we had to get a card before we arrived at whatever the occasion was. And it's like you want to convey how much care you have. And that's why she started creating her own cards, because she realized like basically going in a grocery store, you pick up a card and it just wasn't no heart in it, or it wasn't no culture in it. So she started creating that became her business. She creates cards now. And so out of that, I created, Savannah creates greeting cards that speak specifically to Black women in a language that resonates with them. You want your recipient to feel seen. And while major brands miss that mark, that's exactly what these cards do. Savannah has a bachelor's in psychology and a master's from GSU. She was chosen as part of the 10-city Buy from a Black Woman tour in 2001. To learn more, go here. And then a shorter version for Instagram, that one sentence. Greeting cards that are for us by us, meaning they speak our language and make us feel seen, not like something you snatch from Aisle 9 real quick. So you see, so it kind of got like really creative. It kind of got fun in there. But she also have one if she needs to be a little more serious. She has that version too. Now let's get out of here. And I want to look at some real life bios that y'all sent in. And these are just ones that so it might not be exactly how these particular submissions, the people who submitted them, how they want them to sound. I'm just giving you an example here. So this is what was submitted, this first page and this second page here. I'm not even going to read. I'm gonna just give y'all a little bit of time to go through it a little bit. So, and I'm gonna scroll down. So just about 2 minutes, because I want to see what grabs at you and when do you give up. So if you end up just exhausted and you give up reading, I want to know where that happens. See where that happens. All right. So when I read this particular bio, I was like, it's a lot. But I can also tell that Mahogany has done a lot. I was like, wow, okay, this is a very accomplished recording artist here, but I do lose, okay, and I even missed the bottom part when I was going through it. But, you know, I was like, it's long. So I'm pretty sure one like this would be like on the website or something like that, which is okay. But something too, even on your website, you kind of want to determine how you can mix it up a little bit. So maybe I would have taken a lot of maybe these bullet points and I would have talked about them in a video, or even down here at the bottom, this section here, I would have reserved that for a video. Because there's so much to cover, I wouldn't lead with where I'm from, unless, because there's always an unless, it matters to the venue. So I seen down here, like in the bullet points, that there was like a Gullah festivals in Savannah. So if it matters to like the opportunity, the venue, then sometimes that does matter, yes. But otherwise, like, it's other places that can go. Like I would probably put that at the bottom, because we have to remember we're going through people, we're expressing ourselves to people who have a short attention span. So whether they skim it or they give you like, they read like the first few sentences, we want to make sure we get in there what we need them to know before they leave. And leave could just even mean like move on to another page on a website or something like that. Something else I wanted to do was move the youth advocate mentor down. So right now it's here. So, and I was like, okay, but right now, this, for the most part, this is seeming like it's about the music. So let's take this part and let's move it to the bottom, and that can be more so with the learn more. And another one, because the list of accolades is so long, because you might be able to relate to that in your bios too. I shorten it to and I'm gonna show you what I did with it. Shorten it to the most recognizable and the most recent ones. And then of course, and with that, to learn more, whenever they go to learn more, that's where they get all of them. And I consider this bio kind of like a resume CV style bio. All right, and so, and I took that and I condensed it here. And so, and I said, because this, I love reading, and I was like, oh, Mahogany is amazing. She's a renowned vocalist, recording artist, and songwriter with a funky organic soul, blending all of these sounds. With over 28 years of experience, she has performed for audiences of over 20,000 with music heard in over 24 countries. She shared the stage with these artists. And then I went into that proclamation because that one sounded important. I left a blank there because I didn't know it, but to date, she self-published 3 albums, with the most recent one, see, up ahead, it just said the most recent album reaching the top 10. But I was like, tell us the name of that one, because that sounds like the one that we need to tune into. Mahogany is also a member of these particular organizations. Here are some accolades, so I keep them short. And this is just from my perspective. I'm gonna go back and, like I said, I'm gonna work with them one-on-one to get exactly where they want it to be. But these are the ones we can recognize, and these are like a Soul Train. I know about Soul Train. I know about Grammy. the featured artist, featured performer here. I was like, okay, Tom Joyner, I can recognize Tom Joyner. You were commissioned to write the alma mater, like, wow, like, so keep it the artist residencies. Instead of breaking them out into different bullet points, I just put all on one line, artist residency here, here, and here. And then she also co-founded this particular organization for this reason. If you want to learn more about her or her work or the Gullah Geechee basically work, click here, visit here. So I was able to take 2 pages worth and condense it a little bit, because even if it's on your website, you still want to keep it somewhat short and manageable. Here's another one. Darlene. And I'll give you a few minutes to read over Darlene's a little bit, but really, like I said, for the sake of seeing yourself in somebody else's bio. So if you think it's too wordy, if it makes you curious about something else that ain't said, take note of that, because those are the type of things you want to make sure you have in yours. Because I might overlook it, but it's something you might notice that like, this would have been important. Okay, and another little fun fact in there. So I remember I had a client and I said, why do you always put that double space after the period? And she was like, well, we had to do that with the typewriters. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I noticed a lot of people do it. It's done here too. And I just in case y'all do it too, I was like, you ain't got to do that no more. Because as editors, we have to go back and delete all them out. That's why I say that. So just one space after the period. So this is a storytelling bio. So like when I said about mahoganies, that one was more so like resume CV style. This one is storytelling style. So we learn about, and it's very, very vivid, almost like a novel too. So like Darlene gave us visuals. We can see it, almost smell the lilacs and everything like that. We know Darlene is from New York. It is New York all through this thing, right? And it ain't nothing wrong with that. You'll see, and I kind of condensed it still. And I also thought it was important to, well, actually, let me back up a little bit. You might have a little bit too much information here in detail. So when we think about, so you was born in Buffalo, New York, grew up in a middle class neighborhood, and so now, I hold tight to that. But then as I keep reading, I was like, where does it matter that you grew up in a middle class neighborhood? Like it's just nothing else. Maybe I'm trying to think. Maybe if you did some social advocacy and you talked about classism or some kind of oppressive factors and things like that, then maybe that could point to why that's a difference, because then you grew up and you realize some things, but otherwise nothing else in here really seems like we needed to know that information. But I love, knowing what you grew up surrounded by, however, because that lends itself to the type of paintings that Darlene does. So even when I went back and looked, so even, Darlene put it in there that, she paints roosters, and where is it? I can't even find it. Yeah, down here. So the things that gardens and roosters and horses and chairs. Now that makes sense, having grown up on farmland with all of these things around you. So it's like, that's a beautiful addition. There's nothing wrong with that. Seeing that your background was so vastly different from your parents, nothing wrong with that. A little bit of that I end up taking out, because while it's cool information, it's like, let us hear it in the interview one day. Like, you do an interview or something. I interview myself sometimes, like especially when I was starting off before I got a lot of interviews. I would just set up my camera, my MacBook, and back up and just pretend that I was asked the question and just answer it. And then you can go back and edit it and put the questionnaire and stuff like that. But yeah. And what else? So we have a lot of years in here, and the years, unless it can be communicated why it is important. Otherwise, it don't seem like the years are very important. But so now let me go back to what I did with it. Oh, and another thing too, I wrote down a note too. The words like beautiful. So that was let me see, where is it? Here. Oh no, not that one. Oh no, it must be, I don't know, maybe that was another one. I must have took it out. But okay. So here, Darlene lives in Arizona and devotes her time. So I took what was at the bottom, because here originally we knew found out at the bottom, and now brought it up back to the top, because instead of leading with where you were born, your high school, your college, graphic design, all stuff that you really don't really do anymore, I was like, whoa, let's bring it up and let's focus with what you do currently, and then let's bring them back and tell them the story of how you got to where you are. So Darlene lives in Arizona and devotes her time to creating impressionist paintings that depict these things. Her work explodes with color, light, texture, and wonder. She exhibits her painting in jury groups, shows, and sells virtually to collectors across the globe through these galleries. And now go into the background. Born in Buffalo, New York, grew up in a middle-class neighborhood here. I left that there, although I was just still wondering, like, that might not be necessary there. Surrounded by all of these things. Her father did this, her mother did this. I took out the part about where it kind of shocked them into like going to see, like, does she have a problem? Because that was like one of those things that was cool to know, but it wasn't necessary here. So it's just like they were just shocked that because they didn't have an art background, she did. And at the age of 4, mother enrolled you here. And your artwork earned the school its first exhibit in these places. I kind of took out some of the names of things, like the name of the high school. While somebody in the world might read that and be like, oh my God, I went to that same school, and my daughter went to that school. Like, that's one of those cool things that can come out in conversation or an interview, like I said. But in your bio, it's just extra information that's not necessary there. And so then you earn the degree in graphic design. I left all of that there because there is no master's degree in anything else. But in the graphic design is pertinent to what she's talking about next. She says that she had a graphic design career. So now we know all of those things. For various humanitarian organizations. Originally, she spelled out those organizations here. I took them out for a couple reasons. For one, it was just like, it was a lot of them, and that's the kind of thing that will make our eyes skim. And for two, because down here, then you end up mentioning it anyway. So I was like, okay, so we end up knowing that at least the Red Cross is one of them. So, and that's fine. And so in addition, and it was some really good meat up in there. And I wanted to get straight to that meat, which was, in addition to creating digital art, she produced paintings for marketing and communication, which resulting in like that mass printing. Her stuff was everywhere. And then 2 of the life-size paintings ended up being marketed and auctioned off. That was really important, more important than, it was just so wordy. Like, I think people would have missed that, and we really want them to get that information in there and to know, like, and then throughout your career, you continue doing art education courses, all of these other things, a swimwear line, a children's book, which I probably would have listed the title of the children's book in here, paper mache jewelry, all kind of things in there, and also where you appeared. Nice. So even this one can be shortened up even more, but for the meantime, it's still shorter than what it was, and it gets to what it needs to say. So while you're thinking about your own bios, while I have one more to go through, but while you're thinking about your own bios, see if there is some more information. If there's like a storytelling, what is your style, first of all? Because the next one is a little more storytelling too, but I love the resume CV style. It kind of gets straight to the point, and what you need, what you're looking for, knowing what's all has been accomplished. But then you also, I love the storytelling ones too. So it's like, they just need to be done well. Whichever one you choose, just make sure it's done well. Which one is your style, and what else could you add to yours? So are you seeing anything in these that inspire you to go back and add something in yours? Maybe even something about your childhood that led you to where you are. For a really long time before I got into historian work, because I've been writing professionally, since 2009-ish. But I went back and I was writing since forever. You know, I bought my first diary when I was in elementary school. I saved up my lunch money and bought it from the school fair. You know, I was in youth detention centers when I was growing up. And I remember like we only had so many books in there and we all read them like 2 or 3 times. So I started rewriting my own personal life stories. I would just change my name, you know, and write them out like that, like as if it was somebody else. And I would pass them around like these 50 pages of loose leaf paper, and the girls read them and love them. And so I would include stuff like that in those particular bios back in the day to show that, because I didn't have a whole lot of experience as a writer. So I just wanted to show you that basically my life has led me up into this point. And so, yeah, so that's some of the things you can add to, especially if there isn't a lot of anything else that you want to share, or any, you know, anything present or I don't want to say big or major, but you know what I mean when I say that, that you want to include there. These are some beautiful things to include in there. Even on the job, you know, you can, like she said here with her graphic design work, she kind of went into like some really dope things that happened. And I did the same thing with mine too, like what happened on the job that can show you more of who I am and what I do. So like in mine, for example, I talked about how I facilitated writing workshops for faculty, staff, and students. I did that while I was teaching at Savannah State. So, you know, talk about those things that you did on the job, if it's relevant, of course. And then even in this last paragraph, it just kind of summarized everything up, because all of these things could have been a whole nother paragraph in and of itself. Designing the swimwear, she could have took us down a whole journey to learn about the process of designing the swimwear, selling it, managing it, who wore it, and all those things. But how it reads to me is that I don't do it anymore, but it's something I did do, and maybe I might be open to it again one day, who knows. But I'm just letting you know that it was something included for me. These are all things I've done, you know, just so, yeah, just keep it short right there. And the last one that we're going to look at is from Latoya. And so this is what Latoya have here. So I'll give you a few minutes to read over this one. All right, and this was another one that was pretty long. And another thing I noticed with this one was writing it out. So this kind of was the example of what I was talking about, saying like, my name is Latoya Davis and I am a raw vegan, you know, like you can leave it as I'm a raw vegan holistic, and that especially because you're talking in first person, that makes it more relatable. Another thing, you can, not all the time, but it depends where it is. So say this one is on the website. Maybe it might be fine with the name here, but like if I think about my website, you already know I'm Trelani before you get there, so I don't need to add it, but it might be necessary here, maybe. So, but just ask yourself that if it is necessary, especially because a lot of websites may say something like this about Latoya, and then you come back and my name is, you know. So this is it depends. And another thing, which I was grateful for this one to have come up, because depending on your industry, people want to see receipts. So in this particular, like this is kind of like healthcare, right? So I want to know who you fixed in layman's terms. Like, who have you helped and how have you helped them? Did you help yourself? How did you help yourself? If we think about like an art gallerist, somebody who, you know, represents other artists, who have you represented? How many people have you represented? What kind of success have you been able to help them achieve? You know, how have you helped them develop as an artist? If you have, all of these different things. So depending on the title, sometimes we might need some receipts with that. So that's another thing to ask yourself too, depending on what your bio and what your title, you might need to go in and add that. So then what I end up doing with Latoya's bio. Oh, let me go back and add some more things too. Living, where is it? Okay, so here, when it says living a holistic lifestyle. So these are all the things, like she's learned the importance of doing all of these things and living a holistic lifestyle. I always say unpack stuff like that. Because even I have a client before who kept saying, like, she helps her clients be present, to be more in the present. We know what that means generally, but when you are basically selling a product or a service, and that's basically what a bio is doing, then you need to unpack that and show us that. What does that look like? What does it mean to be present? What does it mean to live a holistic lifestyle? And these are some of the things in here too, yeah, but if that's like the sum of it, then we don't need that. If it's something else to it that's not already said here, what is that? And you don't have to go on and on and on. That could just be maybe like another 2 things on the list. So things like that, you want to make sure you unpack it. Words like beautiful or amazing, that's not here, but I'm just giving an example. You want to take them out and put something else in there. That's writing in general, because I always say it like, try to explain it to me as if I'm blind. Like, what is beautiful? What's beautiful to you might not be beautiful to me. So just describe it to me without that. When you say it's an amazing, like you create an amazing experience for artists, like maybe I got a residency and I create an amazing experience. What do you mean? Like, what makes it amazing? Take that out there and tell me exactly what makes it amazing. Make me want to be there. Because amazing just ain't enough, because what's amazing to you might be blah to me, but if you spell it out, then I'm like, I do want some meals created by a chef every day. And I do want that floor to ceiling window. And I do want, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you unpack certain those words, you can really get in there. And another thing that I noticed, which is really popular, the LLC, you don't need that in there either. You don't need those. That's more so, that's just your tax stuff. Otherwise, just in here, nope, just keep it at your name and your business. And this particular bio is storytelling, but it's also educational. And I like that because she kind of teaches us some things in here too. So like, even like she encourages people to take responsibility for their health, to understand the relationship with food, and to focus on these levels of healing, because they're key to staying committed in your health journey. Words like I believe, I always tell people to leave them off. We know you believe it because it's coming from you, so you don't have to say that. So like in stuff like this, you can just say, I focus on the 4 levels of healing, which are key to staying committed. So, you know what I'm saying? And that even brings you off as more confident. And that's really important when someone is entrusting you with their health and things like that. I need to know that you're confident, and you know what I'm saying? You want to come off as best as you can. And it's not faking it, it's just presenting yourself in a way that people are more likely to trust you there. And so let's see what I did with Latoya's. I said Latasha, I'm getting sleepy. All right, so even if you see it the way you look at it, so if you look at it here, you just got some paragraphs going. When you look at the one I redid, I broke it out. I created some bullet points. So it already does it's a little bit different visually. And I added some italics here. And I made that part up, but I'm going to explain why. So in this one, I said, my name is Latoya Davis, and I'm a raw vegan holistic lifestyle coach who supports people. And I mixed it up a little bit. This wasn't even in this first line. That was like 3 sentences down, in setting practical and effective goals for their health journey. So that first sentence off rip is telling you who I am and what I do, how I can help you. If yours is particularly, if you have a service-based bio, that's important. Who are you? What do you do? And how can you help me? Answer that in that first sentence, and then keep it moving. Health is holistic and everything is connected. This is one of her core beliefs. So I didn't put it's like, I believe that. Nah, I just put it out there. Health is holistic and everything is connected. You're teaching me here. And this is really important too when it comes to service-based. I want to know that you are a wealth of knowledge. Like, you already telling me stuff like this here. Yeah, I want to talk to you some more, because it's like, it seems like you know a lot. When you have a healthy mind, you have a healthy body. I'm amen with you. I'm like, yeah, I agree. Amen. And then now you're telling me how you kind of helped yourself. I have been eating plant-based for 9 years. And originally, and I want to point this out coming back up, this was at the bottom. I have been eating plant-based for 9 years and raw vegan for 6 years. Tell me that up front. Especially the part about eating raw vegan for 6 years during pregnancy and nursing, that already combats a lot of misbeliefs. And having personally healed myself with self-care practices such as these, I also inspired those around me to follow suit. So now it's like, these are kind of, if you will, it's like showing your receipts. So you show me that you've done this for yourself. Other people have done it with me. Trust me. And I'm like, okay, I'm still following you for the ride. My specialty is raw vegan coaching because it changed my life. Eating live food supported me in having more energy, a clear mind, balanced emotions, and improvement in creativity and health overall. In addition to hosting raw vegan challenges, which initially I think that was up at the top, that I host raw vegan challenges. I kind of pushed that down just a little bit. So in addition, where am I, to hosting raw vegan challenges, I also offer raw vegan meal prep. Regardless if my clients are raw vegan or not, I encourage them to take responsibility for their health and to focus on these 4 things because this is the key. And then I break it down. I approach my work with both personal experience and certified training. And this kind of goes back to that receipt thing I was talking about, because I want to know, like, my health is important. Even if I ain't been taking responsibility for it, I need to know that I can really trust you with this. So it's like, and now you're letting me know, on top of my personal experience, I'm also certified. Here's where I've been certified. And LaToya will have to help me go through this and make sure I wrote that down correctly, but I bullet point some of them out. Some of them I left the name of them, like Ayanna Van Zandt. Most of us can recognize her name, and so that's something that can make somebody like, oh, okay. Queen Afua, especially a lot of people who are into spirituality and holistic wellness in the Black community. A lot of us are familiar with Queen Afua, so I left that there too. Having also ascended in the gateway of Mayat, along with my mother's lifelong. So originally, like if I go back up, we had kind of had like a longer paragraph about her mother. Where is it? Okay, yeah, here. My mother, always said she would be a scientist. She was right, but it just wasn't the same way. It was kind of longer. So I took what was here and just shortened it up a little bit. And I just said, along with my mother, now where am I? There we go. My mother's lifelong vision of me being a scientist. This work has always been at the core of who I am, as it was for my ancestors too. I need a comma right there. My kitchen is my laboratory. So it's like, now I just added that ancestral piece in there too, because that'll particularly speak to LaToya's audience. So when we're reading this, we can kind of tell exactly who would be most, and who's most open to what LaToya has to say so far, especially with, mention like the Egyptian goddess herself, and all of these things. So it's something else, because this is a storytelling and educational one. I did some more, I added more of that in here too. So about the business, why the business was created. I cut a lot of that out in there. So let me go back and kind of show what was cut out of there. I birthed my business here due to my enthusiasm for raw vegan, eating raw vegan. We didn't need that. We already know you've been doing it for 6 years. Eating live foods, I moved that. I felt a natural high and a deeper connection with myself. And that is beautiful, but that's just something that can be done in an interview or your signature line and your emails, somewhere else. Eating this way also, all of these things. I took all of that and I kept from right here, and I went straight to the mission, to right there. And so that's what we see there. So sometimes that's why I was like, but if you're writing fast and you're getting it out, good. And then once you go back and edit yourself, that simplicity and conciseness is where it comes in. So that's why I birthed Infinite Nature to inspire the holistic healing of the body, mind, and spirit through personal development, health, and wellness. And then I added these virtues of this Egyptian goddess. Leaning into the virtues, my mission is to help those I work with achieve balance, order, and harmony through an equal measure of truth-telling and compassion. Because if I remember correctly, I think it's 7 virtues. And then I added this one in here too, because like this is like that testimonial. And you can totally, if it's relevant to your bio, and if it will do something for it, add a testimonial in there. I have one in the one, like I have I have a lot of bios. So I'm also a ghostwriter. And so in my bio for ghostwriting, I share a testimonial on that one too. So I participated in the Raw Vegan Challenge with LaToya, and I felt lighter than I ever have in my entire life, in my mind and my body. So nobody said that, I said that, but LaToya could replace that with something somebody else said, because if I was reading his bio and I saw that in there, I'd be like, ooh, like I want to feel like that too. Somebody else speaking on it, and it's not just Latoya speaking about what she can do. Somebody else has something to say on it too. So it's like that's another quote unquote receipt. And then lastly, she kind of got personal with us, you know, showed us a little bit of herself too. So in my free time, I love doing this, traveling, spending time with my daughter, doing all of these things. She had also mentioned at the end of hers about Savannah, something, providing meal prep in my local Savannah, you know, Savannah, Georgia. I just went back and made that into a sentence because I had already put in here something about where she does the meal prep anyway. So now I just put like, and enjoying Savannah's beautiful weather and trees. So that's a way to put where you living at without just saying it outright. Just a little bit more creative. If you like to join my next Raw Vegan Challenge or schedule a one-on-one consultation, go here. Always like, so especially with the service-based one, you want to have a call to action at the end. So that way people know what to, you give me what to do. What do you want me to do next? Do you want me to go here and learn some more? Do you want me to book a one-on-one with you? Like, what do you want me to do next? You want to go buy your book? Like, tell me what you want me to do next. And that's not all, specifically for service-based. That can be for any of us. Like, even if you're an artist, like, where can I go to see more of your work? Where do you want me to go to see more of your work? Put that in, definitely. Like, don't end the conversation right there. You know, bring it back. Now, how do I stop this screen share? You would think I do these all the time. I could, there we go. All right, and so now let's open it up for questions. If anybody have any questions, let me unmute y'all. All right, cool. And let me go to this chat. What are the different types of bio writing? So I think I covered that a little bit. So you kind of have the one that's like resume CV style, where you kind of like not so much telling me a story. You just kind of get into the heart, just get into the bullet points, if you will. Like, this is what I do. This is my style in it. This is what I've done. I got this education. I got this award. I got this opportunity and this opportunity, just kind of getting straight to the point. And then you also have the storytelling one where you kind of like, you've seen the one with Darlene. I hope that's the right name. It's a long day, but you have the different ones where, you know, we learned about her growing up, etc., all the way down. And then you also have the ones like we saw with Latoya, to where she, it was educational. She taught us some things, but then she also kind of gave us the storytelling element in there too. So you have different ones. When should or shouldn't you use first person? If someone is requesting a bio from you and you send it, they'll usually tell you. Or sometimes too, like, for example, I just wrote up an article for one of my friends, Chef BJ Dennis, for the Charleston magazine. I also had to write his bio for that. So what I did was I just went to Charleston magazine's website, looked at some other bios and saw how those were written. So that way I can know like the length of it. And also if they use first person or if they use third person. For the most part, first person is only for your own stuff. So that's for your website, your book, anywhere else. If it's outside of you, like on somebody else's website, somebody else's art gallery on the wall, it's gonna be third person. Is there much difference between an artist statement and a bio? It can be. Your artist statement is going to be a little more inclusive. All right, so it's almost like if you think about an autobiography and a memoir. So an autobiography talks about your whole life. A memoir just focuses on a particular subject matter in your life. So your artist statement kind of does that too. Your artist statement is like your memoir. We're just interested in learning about your art, what all cultivated to make it what it is today. What is it trying to say? It's all about your art. We're not really too much focused on like that you were featured in this particular magazine or that magazine, or you got interviewed by so-and-so, or that you got an artist residency. I mean, unless the residency was like in Senegal, or even if it was in Portland, Maine, or New Orleans, or wherever it was, and that experience did something for you and created some kind of spiritual evolution, and all of that went into your artwork. You know, your artist statement is really kind of specifically about
that's why. I must have.
No? Okay. I'm gonna go over the list one more time, just in case anybody want to screenshot it or anything. Just that checklist of all the things you want to make sure that you do include in your bio. Oh, here we go. I've been creating art only for the past 4 years, and 30 years prior was in the legal field. So I don't have a list of artistic accomplishments yet, no galleries or awards, but I have created quite a few pieces and have developed what I think is a unique style and would like to begin entering my work in juried exhibitions, contests, but many contests ask, tell us a little bit about yourself or provide an artist statement. My work has been in student class shows only. That's fine. So just focus. So now you have the space to then, can you make up stuff in your bio, like speaking into existence? I'm gonna come back to that. But the other one, I like that question too about, I wasn't, what I would focus on if I was you was like to show how once an artist, always an artist. I started off in art and I deviated and took this whole other path down into the legal field, but obviously art was still calling my name. I circled back, and you've been doing these things, you're in these classes, you're creating these, and tell us about your style and what is your art saying. You can even break it down and share us, like, and break down one or two of your favorite pieces that you created or the most popular pieces, if anybody, like if there's a lot of people particularly love them, or if you shared them online and they kind of went out there viral, a lot of shares, comments, likes on them, you can kind of break those down and talk about those. I would also say, see if you can too, like because I know, like, coming from that legal field and having those particular bullet points, sometimes you can compare, might be comparing the two. So start writing, get you some writing out, see if you can be featured in some magazines and stuff like that, and that can give you a few more things to put out there too. But yeah, so you can just write about your journey up to where you are now and all the things that make your art what it is. What is, like I said, what is it trying to tell us, and all of those things. Mention that you had a 30-year career in the legal field. Talk about that. And yeah, and then circle it back to how, but the artist in me never shut up. So I brought that back out. Yeah, that's a good one. And then the next question was, can you make stuff up in your bio, like speaking into existence? I would need an example of what that looked like. I mean, because you don't want to be lying and saying, like, you never want to lie and say, like, you got a degree from somewhere or like your artwork was on the walls of these particular museums and it wasn't. Anyway, if somebody can go check you, don't make that part up. But maybe say, like, if you're saying, for example, like, you are a renowned artist, you can say that. You can say that. Like, I don't think that might not be making it up. You just, like you said, that's how I identify myself. But yeah, anywhere else, like, if somebody could check you, nah, don't do that. Don't do that. And I'm gonna go back and do another quick screen share, just for anybody who might have came late and missed that part, or want to go back and maybe screenshot or take a picture of something in a particular part. So let's go back here. So what the bio is for, that's an important question to ask yourself. Make sure you're not sounding like a robot with these particular things. Balance it out. Make sure you use those contractions and share some of those other little interesting things in there. And this is the main one here. And interview yourself with these questions. So if we think back to the bios that I shared in this particular workshop, all of them pretty much did this. We know about what they do and what's special about how they do it. We got that in there. Any accomplishments that could have been listed, they were there. We know about their degrees, certificates, and license, etc. I don't remember seeing any. Oh, well, the first one, Mahogany, had some volunteer work. Books and articles. Well, even the second one too, because if I think about, like, the paintings being auctioned off, like, I don't think you got paid for that, right? Yeah, and so in some of them too, we know about where they're from, where they live in. I think all three of them. Any mission statements. So I know particularly in Latoya's, we know what her mission is. What is your mission? And the one who asks about that too, like I don't have a whole lot of experience in the art world. If you have, yeah, put that in there. What are some of your core values? What is your mission? Even including in and outside of art, like what are some of the things that environmental justice or anything, like what's some of the things that are important to you? Because we want to connect with you. That's really important in the world of art, period. It's all about connection. So help us to connect with you. So these are all things that, yeah, some of the things you want to make sure that you include in your bio. And let me come back and see if there's any more questions. Is it okay to talk about what opportunities or positions you would like to be in the future? Talking about goals. It depends, as long as it's not already too long. Like if you already like 3 paragraphs in, you probably can leave that out. You already got enough to say in there, put that somewhere else. But if you like 1-2 paragraphs in, yeah, that wouldn't hurt anything. Just make sure you keep it relevant to what you're doing now. Even if, say, for example, this question was flipped the other way around. It was like, I'm in the art world and maybe the goal was to get into the legal field. But you want to represent artists as an attorney, something like that. Yeah, it's still relevant or whatever it is. As long as the goal is relevant to the bio, yeah, put that in there.
I had a question. Hey.
Hey.
How often should you update your bios? Like if you have one that's been on Instagram or Facebook for the last whatever, not much has changed. How often should you update it, or just like add some razzle dazzle to it, even if it does say the same thing? Like how often should you do that?
If you bored with it, update it. Because a lot of times too, something that we all get better at saying what we want to say and figuring out what we do and what makes us different, because as we, the more we scroll, you come across people who doing what you do and you see a way that you're different about it. And so, the more you do that, the more you'll be able to better refine and say what you do. Like my bio with Crack Teen on Instagram, I change that thing maybe once every 3-4 months, because it's just, I'm always furthermore just realizing, oh, like this is what I want to do. Because I think at first I was saying like Savannah's Black history, and then the more I was doing, I was like, I'm sharing more than that though. And then for a while it was like I was bridging the connection between New Orleans and Savannah, and I was like, but I'm doing more than that. Then it was like I'm showing us that we all cousins. So, and I was doing, so it's like the more you realize, and even as your work evolves, that can happen too. Go back and update it. Some people, and then otherwise it's gonna be a personality thing. Some people like every time like a new thing pop off, they might remember to go do it. For me personally, it ain't till somebody asks for like my, not social media, but like my actual bio that I send out, it ain't till somebody request it from me that I'd be like, oh, let me go back and update that thing. Like I just did some workshops with the local library here for Black History Month, and like send us your bio, your headshot, da 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 da. So before I send it, of course, I've read it a million times, but I read it one more time. And I'm like, let me go back and add this little thing on here real quick. Let me take this line out, because I ain't stunting that no more. So yeah, so it just depends.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll close it on out. All right. Well, thank y'all for coming. Okay, go ahead.
This mahogany. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. I wanted to say thank you because you gave me a lot of insight into my bio. And so now I realize that I need more than one.
Yes, you do.
Right, because of different lanes that I'm in. So I'm definitely, I'll be reaching out to you.
Yeah, I already got you.
Yeah, to get your help with that. Absolutely. So thank you.
I'm going to email all of y'all individually anyway, so we can actually go back and forth and get it to where you exactly want it to be. At least one of the bios, rather.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Sonia and Aaron and Kendra and Jaslyn, Sabree, and Amine, who I know and love. And Mahogany, I know and love her too already. The songstress of the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor. That is a mouthful, ain't it? And if anybody, we're done. So if anybody don't feel compelled to stay, but just in case any lingering questions pop up, I want to stay and make sure I'm present for those to
Okay.
those.
Well, I'm glad I caught some learning. Thank you.
Welcome. You're welcome, Denise. Your name's
All right, and we'll be in touch.
all right. Peace. Sonia, Julia, K, JJ. I'll see if I can. I'll check. If I can, I'll let you know. Definitely send the recording. That's what's being asked. Yeah, and in those social media bios too, y'all put some emojis in there. I didn't think it was that serious, but I noticed some differences. I read some data on it that you should, and then and I noticed some differences. Even with Black Art in America, I shifted theirs up and turned it from a paragraph to just like 3 lines, and each line is like starts off with an emoji in front of it, or is it a bullet point on that one? But and it's like an emojis in there. It makes a difference. We give thanks. It's helpful. Good. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you. And you're welcome, Betty. Thank you too. Yeah. And the same thing for your book too, because you're like, it can go out. Like when I teach students sometimes, like college students or high schoolers, I be like, write 1 sentence about yourself. Now turn that 1 sentence into 4 sentences. Now turn them 4 sentences into 1 page. And you can keep going all the way until you have a book. Literally, that's like when I give people, sometimes I do book writing workshops. That's like a quick, easy format that I give them. Either that way, or I'll be like, think of 5 bullet points. If you could think of 5 things in your life that really was a really pivotal moment that brought you to where you are now, think about those things and elaborate on them. And it's like, and make each one its own chapter. And you can have a memoir. All right. So we have a lot more workshops coming up for y'all from the Black Art in America Foundation. They are free thanks to our patrons. So big ups to them. And if anybody wants to do that, it's all over our marketing material to do it. Just go to patreon.com/Black Art in America. If you have a suggestion for a workshop that you want to see, let us know that too. Great way to look at it. The thought of writing a book can be overwhelming. It can be so overwhelming. And I always say too, even with the book, like, although we read books from beginning to end, you don't have to write them from beginning to end. Like, write the part that comes to you first. Write the part that you was driving or in the shower and another scene hits you. Write that part next, and then go back and put it together when you're done. Like a quilt, and you just bring this patch and this patch together, and then you weave them together in a way that makes sense, or hire somebody to help you weave it together in a way that makes sense. Now, it ain't got to be over, and it don't have to be long either. I'm reading Gordon Parks' memoir now, and I love it. Some chapters are like 7 pages long. Some chapters are 1 page, and that's so refreshing. That feels so good. That feels good as a reader and a writer. Like as a reader, it's like, ooh, a little break. Like, and as a writer, it feels refreshing. Like, chapters don't need to be that long. Like in college, I was taught that keep your chapters consistent. If you have, they can be between 7 to 8 pages, but make sure all of them around about. Nah. Yeah, so you can have a book that's 23 pages long, especially today. Amazon got a section called short reads, and it got its own section. A lot of people actually look for books that are specifically called short reads because they want to be able to start and finish your book in 1 airplane ride, or while they at their layover, or while they under the dryer at the hair salon. So yeah, it ain't got to be overwhelming at all. And then a lot of times with my clients, with my writing clients too, I tell them like, let's make 5 short reads, like 5 little books that's about 20 to 30 pages long, and then we're gonna put them all together and sell them as 1 big book. All right, so now I'm just freestyling and just sharing. And y'all can jump in. You can pretty much ask me any question related to writing, bios, books, speeches, anything, your website pages, because all of that give us ideas on more workshops that might be needed. Do I offer one-on-one sessions? If anybody is curious, I do. What else? What else can I tell my last 6 participants about? What might y'all be interested in? Black English, that one's come up a lot. Sometimes I have people that write and they might say like, I want more personality, like I want to sound like myself, but I still want to sound professional. So you can kind of mix it. So kind of like I wrote a book for a Microsoft attorney recently. And so what we did with his was, for the most part, I use textbook English. I call it textbook English instead of standard English, because that makes it sound like the way that a lot of people of color talk naturally is wrong. It ain't wrong, it ain't inferior, it ain't substandard, it's just a whole nother lane. So anyway, so I use a lot of textbook, and then every now and then we might say like ain't with his. So it's like, it just crack it out every now and then and just put some personality into it. But otherwise, we made sure his readers still respected him as an expert and a professional. So it's so many ways that you can do it, even with just a little bit of style every now and then. I've even seen bios sometimes that had like, one of my, Akila S. Richards, she was like, mad question asking, like a Biggie line, you know, she was like, and that's her, she felt like her superpower was mad question asking. I was like, ooh, I love it. I love it. I've read bios that started off, instead of them telling us like, I live in wherever city they live in, they'll put the indigenous name for it. I love that too. That tells us a lot. What is the cutoff in years for listing a major accomplishment on a bio? Like it depends, like how major it is. Like and that goes back to what I was saying too. If you have a whole lot of accomplishments, then keep it to like the last. I can't even say 5 years, because it really depends. Like when all of us was looking at Mahogany's list, she had almost a full page just of bullet points of things like that, and she could easily have like 10 of them. That was just in the last 2 or 3 years. So sometimes it got to do with years. I wouldn't, you know, and sometimes it just got to do with how many you have. Really, that's really, how many do you have, and how can you like keep it? Can you get it down to about 5 of them, regardless of the year, you know? And then if it gets too far dated, I wouldn't even put the year unless it matters to it. And, you know, maybe you were in a volume something of something, you know, I wouldn't even put the year sometimes. It don't even matter. I realized I had to stop putting the year. And that's a good piece of advice for young people, especially. And maybe even if you're older, it might work out that way, because, you know, ageism is a real thing. And me talking about history, sometimes a lot of older people feel like I'm too young to even know about history. So I had to stop putting that. I graduated with my bachelor's in 2016 and my bachelor's in 2012 and my master's in 2016. Just nope. I got the bachelor's, I got my master's here. in this particular thing, the year don't even matter. Yeah, you're welcome. Yep, just leave it on off. Because, yeah, we got to assume that people come with their own biases on things, you know? So, yeah, a lot of stuff, I just don't even put all of that. And when you put where you live, like that can be cool, but depending on the opportunity too, you don't want people to think that, oh man, like I remember, for example, one thing that happened to me was a juvie, like I think it was like a halfway house for kids. They had read this article that I wrote. They were based in DC, and they were like, oh, like I'm sorry I reached out to you, but I just saw that you're in Savannah and we're in DC. And I'm like, I'll come up there. And they were like, oh, you know, we can pay you for your workshop, but we won't be able to facilitate the travel. And for me, you know, I just wanted to do it. I love connecting with kids. So I was like, I'll just take the money you pay me and I'll just use that for my travel expenses. For me personally, you know, that's what I did. So a lot after that happened, I just started leaving off the dates. I might tell you like where I'm from. Sometimes maybe, you know, like I said, it depends, especially with the oral history work. But other than that, I even leave that off too. So like I said, it's consider your audiences and what it's for, the opportunities you're doing this for, and whether or not it matters. And think about sometimes even if something didn't have anything to do, like one particular artist out of Atlanta, I forgot her name. Oh, she's so amazing because she's been doing a lot of murals too for shelters, homeless shelters. But she grew up a military, in her words, a military brat, and she had lived all over the world and things like that. And I wove that in there only because I was like, oh, so it's like you are really open and tolerant and experience with a lot of cultures outside of your own. Like you've lived in so many different places and interacted with so many different people for so long, you know, for about 18 years of your life. So that matters because now you're going into communities that ain't yours. Like even like neighborhoods sometimes, like I think she did one in, was it East Point, Georgia? I think it might've been East Point, Georgia. And she did one there. And I was like, so it's like, it's okay that you're an outsider coming in because you're not trying to put your own ideas onto them. You understand, you know what to look for in an outside culture and express it and bring it out for them. You know the right questions to even ask them. Like, yeah, so even some things you might can even weave it and figure out a way to make it connect. Especially if your bio you feel like ain't long enough, you're not telling enough. Think about some of those past experiences, childhood, teenage years, early adulthood, all the way up into today. Even if you're sewing and weaving, quilting in your free time, that's a beautiful addition.